There is a practice so simple, so quiet, that most people dismiss it the moment they hear it. And yet, those who commit to it begin to change in ways others cannot explain. Not overnight, not dramatically, but steadily, until their entire direction shifts. It doesn't require money, it doesn't require special talent, and it doesn't demand hours of effort. In fact, that's exactly why it's ignored. Because the mind is trained to chase complexity and overlook the very thing that creates real power. Twice a day, no exceptions. That's all it asks. And that's where most people fail, not because it's difficult, but because it's easy to postpone, easy to skip, easy to tell yourself, I'll do it later. And in that delay, the opportunity quietly disappears. Most people wait until they feel motivated, until the timing feels right, until something pushes them. But this practice works in the opposite direction. It creates the very state people are waiting for. It builds clarity before confusion can take over. Imagine starting your day with intention instead of reaction, ending it with control instead of drift, not letting your thoughts scatter wherever they please, but directing them deliberately, as if you were shaping something invisible but powerful, because that's exactly what's happening. Your thoughts are not random, they follow patterns. And those patterns become habits, and those habits become results. Whether you notice it or not, you are already practicing something daily. The only question is whether it is working for you or against you. This quiet practice interrupts that pattern. It forces you to pause, to focus, to choose what you will think instead of accepting whatever comes. And at first, it feels small, almost insignificant. But repetition turns it into something far greater than it appears. There were those who followed this simple discipline without fail, not because it was exciting, but because they understood what it was doing beneath the surface. They weren't just repeating words or thoughts, they were shaping direction. And slowly, almost unnoticed, their confidence changed, their decisions sharpened, their awareness expanded. Opportunities that once seemed invisible began to stand out, not because the world changed, but because they did. Most people search for big breakthroughs. One moment, one idea, one opportunity that changes everything. But what if the real transformation is built in silence, through consistency, through something so simple, it almost feels too easy to matter? That's where the divide happens. The ones who ignore it continue drifting, reacting, repeating the same cycles. The ones who commit to it, even when it feels small, even when it feels unnecessary, begin moving in a different direction entirely. Because twice a day, every day, you are sending a signal to your mind, to your decisions, to your future. And that signal becomes stronger with each repetition until it begins to shape outcomes you once thought were out of reach. You won't see the change immediately. That's what makes it dangerous to ignore. Because the effects are quiet at first, subtle, almost invisible. But over time they compound, and suddenly the difference becomes impossible to miss. The truth is, most people won't do it. Not because they can't, but because they underestimate it. They look for something bigger, something faster, something more impressive. And in doing so, they overlook the very thing that could have changed everything. But for those who understand, those who commit without exception, this simple daily act becomes something far more powerful than it appears. It becomes the foundation. And once that foundation is set, everything built on top of it begins to rise. I shall begin by revealing to you that the day does not begin when a man opens his eyes. It begins when his mind accepts direction. And for the majority, that direction is never chosen, it is assumed. They rise into confusion, into noise, into demands already waiting for them. And before they have taken a single deliberate thought, the day has already claimed them. This is the first condition of weakness, not lack of effort, but lack of command. For the man who does not govern his thinking at the beginning of the day will spend the remainder of it responding to what he did not choose. His actions will appear his own, yet they will be shaped by circumstance, by pressure, by whatever force reaches him first. He will call this living, but it is merely reacting. You must understand that the mind, upon waking, is in a state of unusual receptivity. It has not yet been scattered. It has not yet been influenced by the demands of the world. It stands for a brief moment, open, ready to receive instruction, and what it receives in that moment governs what follows. The drifting man wastes this entirely. He rises without intention. He turns immediately to distraction. He allows the first thoughts that enter his mind to take control, and because these thoughts are not chosen, they are rarely useful. They are fragments, worry, memory, uncertainty, obligation. From this beginning, the rest of the day unfolds accordingly. His thinking is scattered, his decisions are delayed, his actions lack force, and though he may work hard, his effort produces little advancement. This is not because he lacks ability. It is because he has surrendered the first and most important moment of the day. The man who rises understands something different. He does not allow the day to begin until he has begun it. Before he accepts any external influence, he turns inward, he pauses, he directs his thought deliberately, he fixes his mind upon what he has decided to pursue, and in doing so, he establishes command. This act is simple, so simple that most dismiss it, and yet within it lies a force that shapes the entire day. For when a man declares his intention before the world interferes, he creates a standard. He sets a direction, and all that follows is measured against it. Without this, there is no measurement, only movement. I have observed young men who appeared ordinary in every respect, no greater intelligence, no greater opportunity. Yet they rose steadily, while others remained unchanged. When examined, the difference was not found in their effort, but in their beginning. They did not start their day in confusion. They started it in command. Each morning, without exception, they returned to their purpose. They repeated it. They considered it. They impressed it upon their thinking until it became clear. And then they carried that clarity into action. At first, the effect was not visible, but gradually, something changed. Their decisions became quicker. Their actions became more direct. Their attention no longer scattered. They began to see what others missed, and in time, their results reflected this difference. Others noticed it, though they could not explain it. They said, "He seems certain. He knows what he is doing. He moves without hesitation." But what they were seeing was not talent. It was preparation, the quiet preparation that occurs before the lows. Day begins. You must understand that the mind cannot serve two masters at once. It cannot follow your intention and the world's confusion simultaneously. It will follow whichever is given first and most firmly. If you do not give it instruction, it will accept whatever is nearest. This is why the early hour is of such importance. It is not the hour itself that carries power. It is what is done within it. When the world is silent, when interruption has not yet begun, you are given a rare advantage, the ability to direct your thinking without resistance. And in that moment, a single clear thought, repeated with intention, carries more force than many scattered thoughts later in the day. This is the principle you must adopt. Do not begin your day until you have begun your thinking. Do not accept the first thoughts that come. Choose to them. Direct them. Command them. You must fix in your mind what you intend to accomplish, not vaguely, not as a wish, but as a definite statement. You must see it clearly. You must repeat it. You must hold it until it becomes familiar. This repetition is not mechanical. It is deliberate. Each time you return to it, you strengthen it. Each time you speak it, you give it greater force. And over time, it moves from conscious thought into deeper acceptance. Once accepted, it begins to direct your actions without effort. You will find that your attention no longer wanders as it once did, that you return again and again to your purpose, that when decisions arise, you measure them quickly, that when opportunity appears, you recognize it sooner. This is not coincidence. It is the result of early command. Others will see the difference in you. They will notice that you are not easily disturbed, that you do not change direction without reason, that you move with a sense of order that is uncommon. And in this observation, they will respond differently. They will trust your decisions. They will follow your direction. They will offer you opportunity, not because you have demanded it, but because you have demonstrated control. You must also recognize that this practice requires consistency. It cannot be done occasionally. It cannot be done when convenient. It must be done daily. For each day that you begin without direction strengthens the habit of confusion. And each day that you begin with direction strengthens the habit of command. These habits accumulate. They build over time. And eventually, they define your condition. The drifting man will say, "This is too simple." He will look for something greater, something more complex, something that appears more powerful. And in doing so, he will overlook the very act that could have changed his course entirely. For power does not always appear impressive. Often, it appears quiet, repeated, almost insignificant, until it has been practiced long enough to reveal its effect. You must not make this mistake. Do not measure the value of an act by its appearance. Measure it by its effect over time. This quiet beginning, repeated daily, will do more to shape your results than any sudden effort made later. For it establishes the condition under which all effort is applied. It determines whether you act with clarity or confusion, with direction or drift, with purpose or reaction. You must therefore make a decision. From this point forward, you will not allow the day to begin without instruction. You will rise, not to react, but to command. You will take possession of your thinking before anything else attempts to claim it. This is not a large act, but it is a decisive one, and once practiced long enough, it will separate you from those who live without direction. For while they are being carried by the day, you will be shaping it. And in that difference, held consistently, your results will begin to change, not suddenly, not dramatically, but steadily, until the direction you have chosen becomes the life you are living. You must now turn your attention to the closing of the day. For just as a man may lose command in the morning, he may lose even more in the evening without ever realizing it. The end of the day is not a time for escape, nor for forgetfulness. It is a time for reckoning. And the man who neglects this moment condemns himself to repeat the same errors without correction. Most men do not end their day. They drift out of it. They move from activity into rest without reflection. They carry with them the impressions of the day, yet they do not examine them. They allow their thoughts to fade into sleep without question, and in doing so, they fix those thoughts in place. This is the second condition of weakness. Not ignorance, but unexamined repetition. For what a man does not review, he repeats. And what he repeats without awareness becomes habit. You must understand that the mind does not correct itself. It follows patterns. And unless those patterns are interrupted, they strengthen with each passing day. A mistake made once, if not examined, is made again. A hesitation left unchallenged becomes a habit. A weakness ignored becomes permanent. This is how drifting takes hold. Not through sudden failure, but through quiet repetition. The man who rises does not allow this. At the close of each day, he returns to himself. He does not seek distraction. He does not rush toward rest. He pauses. He reflects. He examines his conduct with honesty, not to condemn, but to correct. This act appears simple, yet it carries tremendous power, for in that moment he breaks the cycle of unconscious repetition. He brings into light what would otherwise remain hidden. He sees clearly where he acted with strength and where he did not. This clarity is the beginning of control. I have known men who made more progress in a single year through this practice than others made in 10 years without it, not because they worked harder, but because they corrected themselves daily. They did not allow error to accumulate. They did not allow weakness to become fixed. Each evening they asked themselves direct questions. Where did I hesitate today? Where did I act with certainty? Where did I fail to follow my purpose? Where did I advance it? These questions are not comfortable. They require honesty. They require that a man face himself without excuse. And this is why most avoid them. They prefer to forget. They prefer to say, tomorrow will be different, without examining why today was not. But tomorrow cannot be different if today is not understood. You must therefore end each day with intention. Return to your purpose. Measure your actions against it. Do not judge harshly, but do not excuse lightly. See clearly. For what you see clearly, you can change. And what you ignore, you will repeat. This practice does more than reveal error. It builds awareness. You begin to notice patterns. You see where you consistently fall short. You recognize the moments that weaken you. And once recognized, these moments lose their power. You prepare for them. You anticipate them. And when they arise again, you meet them with readiness instead of surprise. This is how discipline is formed, not by force, but by correction. Others will begin to see the effect of this practice in you. They will notice that you improve steadily, that you do not repeat the same mistakes endlessly, that your conduct sharpens over time. And in this observation, they will recognize something uncommon. They will recognize a man who governs himself. This governance commands respect. For most men are governed by habit. They act as they did before. They repeat without awareness. And because of this, they remain unchanged. The man who reviews himself daily breaks this pattern. He refuses to drift. He refuses to accept weakness as permanent. He takes responsibility for his conduct. And through this responsibility, he gains control. You must also understand that the evening is not only for correction, but for reinforcement. Where you have acted with strength, you must acknowledge it. Where you have followed your purpose, you must recognize it. This is not pride. It is reinforcement. For what is recognized is strengthened, and what is strengthened becomes easier to repeat. Thus, the evening serves two purposes: to remove what weakens you and to strengthen what advances you. This balance is essential. Without correction, you drift. Without reinforcement, you lose confidence. With both, you grow. You must also return at the close of the day to your central purpose. Repeat it. Impress it upon your mind once more, not as a routine, but as a reaffirmation. You are reminding your mind of the direction it must hold, even as you rest. For the mind does not cease when the body sleeps. It continues, it organizes, it processes. And what you give it at the end of the day, it carries into the night. This is why the final thought is important. If it is scattered, your thinking remains scattered. If it is directed, your thinking continues in that direction. Thus, the day does not end with rest. It ends with instruction. The drifting man does not know this. He allows his last thoughts to be random. He ends his day in confusion, distraction, or worry. And so, his mind continues in that condition. He wakes the next day unchanged. The man who governs himself ends differently. He closes the day with clarity. He corrects his errors. He reinforces his strengths. He reaffirms his direction. And then he rests. Not in confusion, but in control. You must adopt this practice without exception. Do not allow a single day to pass without review. Do not allow your actions to go unexamined, for each day builds upon the last. And if error is allowed to remain, it compounds. But if corrected, it diminishes. Over time, the difference becomes great. The drifting man moves in circles. The directed man moves forward. Others will notice that you are not the same from one day to the next, that you improve, that you refine your conduct, that you do not remain fixed. And in this, they will see progress, not sudden, but certain. This is the power of daily reckoning. It is quiet. It is unseen. It requires no recognition. Yet it shapes the man more than any outward effort. You must, therefore, end your day as deliberately as you begin it, with intention, with awareness, with command. For the man who governs both his beginning and his ending soon finds that he governs all that lies between. And in that governance, his direction becomes clear, his actions become strong, and his results begin to rise. You must now consider the instrument through which this quiet daily practice gains its greatest force. Spoken word directed toward oneself with purpose, repetition, and belief. For while thought alone carries influence, thought expressed in words, repeated with intention, enters more deeply into the mind and fixes itself with greater permanence. Most men speak carelessly. They speak of their doubts, their fears, their limitations. They repeat their difficulties until those difficulties become familiar. And what becomes familiar is accepted. What is accepted becomes belief. And what is believed directs action. Thus, without knowing it, they shape their own condition through idle speech. You must reverse this process entirely. You must learn to speak to yourself with deliberate intention, choosing words that build rather than weaken, that direct rather than scatter, that command rather than question. This is the practice of autosuggestion. It is not mere repetition of phrases. It is the act of impressing the mind with chosen thought until that thought becomes belief. And belief, once fixed, governs action. I recall a case which illustrates this principle with uncommon clarity. A child, deprived of the natural faculty of hearing, was told repeatedly that he would live under limitation, that he must accept a narrower life. Yet through constant repetition of an opposite idea, through words spoken with conviction, his condition was altered beyond expectation. This was not accomplished in a moment. It required persistence. It required belief before evidence. It required repetition until the mind accepted what the world denied. This is the power of spoken thought. The drifting man does not understand this. He repeats what he feels. He says, "I cannot." He says, "This is difficult." He says, "This is not for me." And each time he speaks these words, he strengthens them. He gives them life. He impresses them upon his thinking until they become accepted. Once accepted, they direct his actions. And thus he remains confined not by circumstance, but by repeated suggestion. You must take command of this process. Twice each day, at the beginning and at the close, you must speak to yourself not casually, but with purpose. You must declare what you intend. You must state it clearly. You must repeat it with feeling, for words without feeling are weak. They pass through the mind without effect. But words spoken with conviction, repeated steadily, acquire force. They penetrate deeper. They move beyond the surface and settle within. This is where belief is formed. At first, the words may feel unnatural. You may not fully believe what you are saying. This is expected, for belief is not the starting point, it is the result of repetition. You must continue, speak the words again, and again, until they become familiar, until they no longer feel foreign, until the doubt begins to weaken, and then, gradually, belief takes its place. This is not imagination without purpose. It is the deliberate shaping of thought. You are training your mind to accept a new condition. You are instructing it to move in a different direction. And once instructed consistently, it obeys. Others will begin to notice this change in you. They will hear it in your speech. You will no longer speak of limitation as fact. You will no longer describe your condition as fixed. Your words will carry a different tone, one of certainty, of direction, of quiet confidence. They will observe that you do not speak idly, that your words are measured, that they carry intention, and in this, they will recognize strength. For most men reveal their weakness through careless speech. The man who governs his words governs his thinking, and the man who governs his thinking governs his results. You must also. Understand that this practice must be exact. You must choose your words carefully. They must be definite. They must reflect your purpose. They must describe what you intend to become, not what you have been. Vague statements produce vague results. Clear statements produce clear direction. You must therefore speak as one who has already decided, not as one who is uncertain, not as one who is hoping, but as one who has chosen. This choice, repeated daily, shapes belief, and belief shapes action. You must also guard against contradiction. If you speak with purpose in the morning, but weaken your words throughout the day, you divide your influence. The mind receives conflicting instruction. It does not know which to follow. And in this confusion, progress slows. Your words must align. What you declare in your quiet practice must be supported by what you say throughout the day. Consistency gives strength. Inconsistency weakens it. This is why repetition is essential, not only in the morning and evening, but in all speech. You must become aware of your words. You must choose them. You must reject those that weaken, and you must reinforce those that strengthen. Over time, this practice produces a remarkable change. You begin to hear yourself differently. You become conscious of what you say. You notice when your words fall below your standard, and you correct them. This awareness alone separates you from the majority. For most men speak without thinking. They allow their words to follow habit, and their habit reflects limitation. You must build a new habit, one of deliberate speech, one of controlled suggestion, one of repeated instruction. This habit, once formed, continues even without effort. You begin to speak with purpose naturally. You begin to express confidence without forcing it, and others respond. They trust your words. They believe your direction. They follow your lead. Not because you demand it, but because your words carry weight. This weight is not given. It is built through repetition, through consistency, through the refusal to speak without intention. You must therefore make a firm decision. From this point forward, you will not speak idly to yourself. You will not repeat thoughts of limitation. You will not reinforce doubt. Instead, you will direct your speech. You will choose your words. You will repeat them with purpose, twice each day, without exception. And in doing so, you will shape your thinking. You will build belief. You will direct action. This is the quiet force behind the practice. It does not appear dramatic. It does not produce immediate change. But over time, it alters the very foundation of your thinking. And once that foundation is changed, your results cannot remain the same. For they are built upon what you have repeated, and what you repeat with belief, you eventually become. You must now see that this quiet daily practice is not merely a method of directing thought. It is a means of rebuilding the man himself. For no lasting change can occur until the image a man holds of himself is altered, and this image is not changed through effort alone, but through repeated impression upon the mind. Every man carries within him a picture of what he believes himself to be. This picture governs his conduct. It determines how he speaks, how he acts, what he accepts, and what he rejects. It sets a boundary, often unseen, beyond which he does not move, no matter how great his desire. This is the unseen barrier, and it is maintained through repetition. If a man has long believed himself uncertain, he will hesitate, even when opportunity is clear. If he has believed himself limited, he will shrink from advancement, even when it is offered. Not because he lacks ability, but because his image does not permit him to act otherwise. The drifting man never questions this image. He accepts it as fact. He says, "This is who I am." And in that statement, he fixes himself. But the man who rises does something entirely different. He decides who he will become, not based on present condition, but on chosen direction. And then, through daily repetition, he begins to impress this new image upon his mind. This is the deeper purpose of the practice, not to repeat words, but to reshape identity. Consider Again, the young man who resolved to become associated with a great inventor. He had no evidence, no position, no recognition, yet he held within his mind a fixed image of himself in that role. He repeated it. He believed it. He acted upon it. And though the world did not yet see it, he did. This is where all change begins, within the image. You must therefore examine the image you carry. Ask yourself honestly, what do I see when I consider myself? Do I see strength or hesitation, certainty or doubt, direction or confusion? Whatever you see, that is what you are reinforcing, and that is what you will continue to express, unless you change it. The quiet daily practice gives you the means to do so. Twice each day, you return to your chosen image. You see yourself not as you have been, but as you intend to become. You repeat it. You feel it. You hold it in your mind until it begins to take form. At first, it may feel distant,